Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Deku become Red Power Rangers from Power Rangers Jungle Fury? Subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And also check the description. So let's begin the story. Dawn broke over UA High School with a soft, hopeful glow. In the quiet corridors of the prestigious academy, where heroes were forged through grit, sacrifice, and dreams, Izuku Midoriya, known to most simply as Deku, woke to another day of determination and self-doubt. Today, like every day, he would step into the unknown, burdened with the legacy of heroes before him and the weight of his own unspoken insecurities. Deku rose from his bed, the rhythmic beating of his heart echoing his thoughts of inadequacy and aspiration. He ran a trembling hand through his tousled green hair and stared at the small scar on his cheek, a reminder of his first encounter with danger, a symbol of his growth. His room, modest yet filled with remnants of past victories and inspirations, seemed to whisper that every scar told a story of resilience. As he prepared for class, his mind swirled with memories of the heroes he admired, the mentors who had nurtured his unyielding resolve, and the overwhelming pressure to live up to their examples. How can I become a true hero if I'm always second-guessing myself? He thought, tightening the straps of his backpack. Stepping into the bustling corridors of UA, Deku was greeted by familiar faces, each brimming with their own hopes and dreams. The academy itself hummed with energy, the clamor of training sessions and lively discussions creating an undercurrent of ambition. Yet, amid this chaos, Deku felt a persistent sense of isolation, as if destiny had something far greater in store for him beyond the ordinary routines of student life. In class that morning, as teachers discussed the nuances of hero tactics and the philosophy of self-sacrifice, Deku's gaze wandered to the window. The sunlight filtering through the glass seemed to beckon him, as if urging him to seek out truths that lay hidden just beyond his grasp. His mind, ever active with plans and possibilities, struggled to reconcile the ideals he studied with the uncertainty of his own capabilities. Midoriya, his homeroom teacher called, pulling him back to the present. Remember, a hero's strength isn't measured solely by their quirks, but by the size of their heart. Deku nodded, his expression a mixture of gratitude and determination. In that moment, he silently vowed to push beyond his limits. Little did he know, that very day would mark the beginning of an odyssey that would shatter the boundaries between worlds. The day's schedule proceeded with its usual intensity, yet an undercurrent of excitement buzzed in the experimental lab. UA had been collaborating with researchers from various dimensions to unlock latent potentials, a secret project that few students knew of. Deku had been selected as an observer, his innate curiosity and unwavering resolve making him an ideal candidate to witness this groundbreaking experiment. In the sterile glow of the laboratory, surrounded by arcane symbols and futuristic devices, Deku's heart raced as scientists and heroes in training gathered around a shimmering containment field. At the center of the chamber lay a mysterious artifact, pulsing with an ethereal energy that resonated with something deep within him. Dr. Sato, one of the leading researchers, explained with fervor. This artifact is believed to be a relic from another realm, one where the raw forces of nature and ancient spirits converge. Its power is beyond our current understanding, and today, we attempt to awaken its potential. Deku listened intently, absorbing every word. The idea of an ancient power hidden within the relic stirred something inside him, an unspoken hope that perhaps he could unlock abilities beyond the confines of his known world. His heart pounded in tandem with the artifact's pulsations, each beat echoing the promise of transformation. But as the experiment reached its crescendo, a series of unexpected energy surges began to ripple through the room. The containment field flickered, and a low hum, like the roar of a distant beast, filled the space. Before anyone could react, a blinding flash of red and green light erupted from the artifact, engulfing Deku in a vortex of energy. "Everyone, get back!" shouted one of the lab assistants, but it was too late. In an instant, Deku felt the very fabric of reality tear around him. The sensation was like being pulled through layers of time and space, a whirlwind of colors and emotions that left him breathless and disoriented. When the light finally subsided, Deku blinked against the sudden, overwhelming darkness. He found himself standing on soft, damp ground, the scent of earth and foliage filling his nostrils. Slowly, his vision adjusted to reveal a world completely unlike the sterile, controlled environment of UA. Around him stretched an immense, untamed jungle, its ancient trees towering high into the heavens, and its dense canopy alive with mystery. He took a tentative step forward, his boots sinking slightly into the mossy earth. The jungle was bathed in a twilight glow, as though it were a realm suspended between night and day. Every leaf, every whisper of wind, seemed imbued with the power of forgotten legends. The rhythmic chorus of hidden creatures echoed in the distance, and the air vibrated with an energy that was both exhilarating and intimidating. "Where am I?" Deku murmured, his voice a mix of awe and apprehension. It wasn't long before he noticed something else, a faint, rhythmic pulse that seemed to emanate from deep within the jungle. Like the beat of a hidden drum, it resonated with his very soul. The sensation was oddly familiar, stirring echoes of memories he hadn't yet made. His heart pounded not only from the shock of his sudden displacement, but from the realization that this was not an accident. It was as if fate had a plan for him. Navigating cautiously through the undergrowth, Deku's every sense heightened. His training from UA had honed his ability to remain vigilant in dangerous situations, and now that skill was being put to the ultimate test. The vibrant, pulsing life of the jungle was both beautiful and intimidating, a living testament to the raw, untamed forces of nature. After what felt like hours of wandering through the verdant maze, Deku came upon a clearing. In the center stood an ancient stone pedestal, half covered in vines and etched with symbols that glowed faintly in the twilight. As he approached, an inexplicable energy welled up within him. His skin tingled, and his eyes widened as the pedestal began to emit a soft, melodic hum. Deku reached out a trembling hand, unsure if he was about to touch something sacred or dangerous. The moment his fingers brushed against the cool stone, a rush of images flooded his mind, visions of a warrior draped in vibrant red and green, engaged in battles against dark forces, and standing as a guardian of a realm forgotten by time. Then, amid the torrent of visions, a voice spoke, a gentle, commanding whisper that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the jungle. "Deku, you have been chosen." He staggered back, heart hammering in his chest. The voice was neither male nor female, either young nor old. It resonated with a wisdom that transcended time and space. Who are you?" he managed to ask, his voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. The voice replied, echoing through the clearing with a familiar cadence. "I am the spirit of the ancient warrior, the guardian of the jungle's heart. Long ago, I wielded the power that now calls to you. Embrace this destiny, and the path of true heroism shall be revealed." Deku's mind raced. The visions, the overwhelming energy, the call of destiny, it was all too surreal. Yet deep down, he felt an undeniable truth in the voice's words. It was as if the spirit was reaching out to him across the chasms of reality, bridging his past with an uncertain future. A swirl of conflicting emotions gripped him: fear, excitement, and a sense of profound responsibility. "But why me?" he whispered into the twilight, his eyes searching the shadowed corners of the clearing for any sign of the speaker. The glowing symbols on the pedestal pulsed in response, and the voice answered, "Because you possess a heart unyielding in its determination, a spirit capable of rising above doubt. Within you lies the potential to harness the power of nature, to become more than you ever imagined. You are destined to carry the legacy of the Red Warrior, a symbol of hope in a world on the brink of chaos." The words seemed to resonate with every fiber of Deku's being. In that moment, as the ancient energy of the jungle coursed through him, he felt a shift, a stirring of something primal and potent within his soul. Memories of his rigorous training at UA, the endless hours of perseverance, and the sacrifices made by those he admired converged with the raw, untamed energy of the jungle. Deku sank to his knees before the pedestal, a single tear of awe and determination tracing down his cheek. I will do it," he vowed softly, the promise echoing in the quiet solitude of the jungle. "I will embrace this destiny and become the hero I was meant to be." As if in response to his pledge, the clearing burst into a cascade of radiant light. The ancient symbols flared brilliantly, and the pedestal's energy enveloped him in a cocoon of warmth and power. For a fleeting moment, the boundaries between his past life at UA and this mystical realm blurred. He saw images of heroic battles, flashes of fierce determination, and the silhouettes of warriors united by a common purpose. In that transcendent moment, Deku felt himself transcending the limits of his previous existence. The essence of the ancient red warrior, long dormant, surged through him. His body vibrated with newfound strength and agility, and his heart swelled with the courage of countless heroes who had come before him. The overwhelming sensations were both intoxicating and daunting, a reminder that with great power came great responsibility. But even as the transformation began, fragments of doubt whispered at the edges of his mind. Can I truly handle this power? Am I worthy of this calling? Yet, as the light intensified, these doubts were drowned out by an undeniable certainty that reverberated through his entire being. A sudden rustling in the foliage snapped Deku back to the present. He looked up to see a figure emerging from the shadows, a mysterious, elderly man with eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the ages. His features were weathered, yet kind, and he exuded an aura of calm wisdom. "Welcome, young hero," the man said softly, his voice carrying the gentle cadence of the jungle itself. "I have been waiting for you." Deku rose unsteadily, still reeling from the overwhelming experience. Who are you?" he stammered, his voice echoing with both awe and apprehension. The old man smiled, a glimmer of knowing in his eyes. "I am Kalen, a guardian of this realm and a messenger of the ancient warrior's spirit. You are no longer in your world of steel and concrete, Deku. Here, you have been granted a second chance, a chance to tap into a power that transcends the limits of your old reality." Kalen's words resonated deeply with Deku, stirring the embers of a newfound purpose. "But why me? I'm just a student. I'm not sure I'm ready for this." Kalen placed a reassuring hand on Deku's shoulder. "Readiness is not measured by the absence of fear or doubt, but by the courage to face them. You have already proven your valor in the face of adversity. Now you must trust in the spirit that has chosen you, and let the power of the jungle guide you." In the hours that followed, as twilight deepened into a starlit night, Deku and Kalen walked together along a winding path through the jungle. The world around them was a symphony of natural sounds, a gentle wind rustling through ancient trees, the distant call of nocturnal creatures, and the soft murmur of a hidden stream. Every step felt as though it was drawing him deeper into a world where time itself had taken on a mystical quality. They reached a small clearing where a natural spring bubbled up from the earth, its water crystal clear and imbued with a soft luminescence. Kalen motioned for Deku to sit by the water's edge. "This spring is said to hold the memories of the jungle," he explained. "Listen closely, and you may hear the echoes of those who have come before." Deku knelt, placing his ear against the cool surface of the water. For a long moment, all he could hear was the gentle gurgling of the spring. Then, faint voices began to rise, a chorus of ancient wisdom and untold stories. He heard the laughter of children playing in sunlit glades, the determined roars of warriors in battle, and the soft lament of those who had sacrificed everything in the name of peace. The voices, layered and timeless, filled Deku with a sense of connection to something far greater than himself. They whispered tales of heroes who had embraced destiny despite insurmountable odds, of warriors who had transcended their mortal limitations to protect the delicate balance of nature. In those murmurs, Deku found both solace and an invigorating call to action. "Do you feel it?" Kalen asked quietly, his gaze fixed on the dancing reflections in the water. "That pulse, that rhythm of life, it is the heartbeat of the jungle. And now it beats within you." Deku closed his eyes, letting the ancient cadence wash over him. With every passing moment, he felt his doubts ebb away, replaced by a burgeoning confidence and an undeniable certainty that he was meant for something extraordinary. The power that had surged through him was not a random gift, it was a destiny woven into the very fabric of his being. As the night deepened, Kalen recounted legends of the ancient red warrior, a guardian who, long ago, had channeled the forces of nature to maintain balance in a realm where chaos threatened to overwhelm order. The stories spoke of battles fought in the shadows of towering trees, of allies forged in the crucible of struggle, and of a legacy that transcended time itself. In every word, Deku recognized echoes of his own struggles at Yue, the constant battle against self-doubt, the relentless pursuit of a hero's path, and the unyielding desire to protect those he cared about. "You see," Kalen said softly, "the spirit that chose you is not just a remnant of the past, it is a beacon for the future. Your journey is one of transformation, a merging of your world and the untamed power of the jungle. And in this convergence, you will discover the true meaning of heroism. Deku's thoughts raced. The enormity of the destiny laid before him was both exhilarating and terrifying. Every step he had taken in his previous life had led him here, to this moment of profound revelation. He thought back to the countless hours of training, the sacrifices of his mentors, and the sacrifices he himself had made in the pursuit of a dream. All of that was culminating in this singular moment, the call of an ancient spirit, the merging of two worlds, and the chance to become more than he ever imagined. In the quiet intimacy of that jungle clearing, Deku allowed himself a moment of vulnerability. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice trembling with raw honesty. "I'm not sure if I can live up to this legacy. I've always felt like I was just trying to catch up, trying to be more than I am." Kalen regarded him with gentle compassion. "Every hero feels that way at the beginning. The path of destiny is never without its shadows of doubt. But remember, courage is not the absence of fear, it is the resolve to push forward despite it. You have already taken your first step by answering the call. Now, trust that every challenge you face will forge you into the hero you are meant to be." The words resonated with Deku on a level he had never experienced before. In that moment, the fear that had long haunted him began to dissolve, replaced by a burning determination. The jungle, with all its mystique and danger, seemed to acknowledge his newfound resolve. The wind whispered through the trees, and even the distant calls of nocturnal creatures sounded like affirmations of his destiny. Standing up, Deku felt a surge of energy coursing through his veins, a mingling of his inherent determination with the raw, primal force of the jungle. "I won't let you down," he said firmly, addressing both Kalen and the ancient spirit that had chosen him. "I'll embrace this power, learn its ways, and become the hero that both worlds need." Kalen smiled, his eyes gleaming with approval. "That is the spirit of a true hero. The journey ahead will be fraught with challenges, battles, and sacrifices. But know this: each step you take will bring you closer to understanding not just the power within you, but also the legacy of those who have walked this path before." As the night wore on, the conversation turned to practical matters. Kalen explained that the jungle was not merely a backdrop for a mystical awakening, it was a living, breathing realm with its own laws and ancient traditions. There were trials to be faced, lessons to be learned, and allies waiting in the shadows who would help guide him on his journey. Deku listened intently, absorbing every detail, every nuance of the wisdom imparted by the Guardian. "We are on the cusp of something monumental," Kalen continued. "Your arrival here was not an accident. The convergence of your world and this realm has been long prophesied by those who revered the ancient ways. You are now a bridge between these two worlds, a beacon of hope that will shine in the darkest of times." Deku's mind whirled with questions and possibilities. Could he truly be that bridge? Was he destined to wield a power that spanned dimensions? And what of his friends, his mentors, and the world he had left behind? The weight of these questions pressed upon him, but alongside the uncertainty was an undeniable thrill, a feeling that his life was about to change in ways he had never dared to imagine. As dawn approached once more, the first light of morning began to filter through the dense canopy, painting the jungle in hues of gold and emerald. Deku rose from the clearing, feeling as if he were on the threshold of a great and perilous journey. The promise of a new day brought with it a sense of renewal, a chance to forge ahead into uncharted territory with the strength of both his heart and the ancient power he had begun to awaken. Before parting ways with Kalen, Deku took a moment to look back at the pedestal. The symbol still glowed softly, a silent reminder of the destiny that had been entrusted to him. In that quiet moment, Deku made a silent promise to himself that he would face whatever challenges lay ahead with unwavering resolve, and that he would honor the legacy of the Red Warrior who had chosen him. "Thank you, Kalen," Deku said earnestly, extending his hand in gratitude. "For everything, the call, the wisdom, and the chance to become something more." Kalen clasped his hand firmly. "Remember, Deku, every hero's journey begins with a single, sometimes uncertain step. Walk that path with courage, and let the spirit of the jungle guide you. I will be with you when you need me, but the strength to change both worlds lies within you." With those parting words echoing in his heart, Deku set off into the depths of the jungle. Every step was a step into the unknown, a realm where nature itself was alive with magic and ancient power. The sounds of the jungle, the rustling leaves, and the distant calls of unseen creatures became his new companions, and the pulse of the land matched the rhythm of his determined heartbeat. As the hours passed and the jungle came fully to life under the rising sun, Deku found himself reflecting on the incredible turn his life had taken. Just days ago, he had been a diligent student at UA, grappling with the challenges of being a hero in training. Now, he was thrust into a world where the very essence of nature and ancient legends converged, a world that beckoned him to embrace a destiny beyond his wildest dreams. In a clearing near a gentle river, he paused to rest and ponder the magnitude of his calling. The gentle flow of the water, the chorus of awakening wildlife, and the warm embrace of the sun on his face all seemed to symbolize a new beginning. He realized that the journey ahead would not be easy. There would be trials that tested not only his physical strength but also his heart and spirit. Yet, there was also a profound beauty in the challenge, a beauty that lay in the promise of growth, transformation, and the opportunity to make a difference in two intertwined worlds. Deku thought back to his early days at UA, when his heart had been filled with dreams of heroism but also tainted by doubt. Every struggle, every setback, had led him to this very moment. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring him here, to a place where the ancient power of the jungle would merge with the heroic ideals he had cultivated over years of relentless training. As he resumed his journey through the jungle, a renewed sense of purpose coursed through him. With each step, he silently recited the promise he had made to honor the legacy of the ancient Red Warrior, to become a beacon of hope, and to bridge the gap between his old world and the vibrant, mysterious realm that now surrounded him. The rustle of leaves overhead and the distant call of a bird seemed to murmur encouragement, reminding him that he was not alone on this path. Somewhere in the vast expanse of the jungle, allies and ancient spirits awaited, each with their own role to play in the unfolding saga of destiny. The jungle itself was a tapestry of life and myth, and Deku felt a profound connection to every living thing that thrived within it. In that moment, he realized that his journey was more than just a personal transformation, it was the beginning of a legacy that would ripple through time. He was no longer just Izuku Midoriya, the aspiring hero of UA. He was now a vessel for an ancient power, a guardian of nature's secrets, and a symbol of unity between two disparate worlds. With the rising sun casting long shadows across the jungle floor, Deku pressed on, his mind alive with determination and the echoes of the mysterious call. Every rustle of the undergrowth, every beam of light filtering through the dense canopy, spoke to him of possibilities yet to be discovered. In that primal world, where every living thing had a story, he was beginning to write his own story that would challenge his limits and redefine what it meant to be a hero. As he made his way deeper into the heart of the jungle, the sense of destiny grew stronger. The pulse that had first drawn him here was now a constant, rhythmic reminder of the ancient power that coursed through the land. It was a heartbeat that matched his own, a subtle symphony that stirred his innermost courage and kindled the flame of hope. And so, with the promise of a new dawn and the wisdom of ancient spirits guiding him, Deku took his first decisive steps into a realm where destiny and duty converged. The mysterious call had been answered, and a new chapter in his life had begun, a chapter filled with danger, wonder, and the promise of becoming the hero he had always aspired to be. Thus, as the first day in this strange and ancient world drew to a close, Deku stood at the precipice of an adventure unlike any he had ever known. The call of the jungle, the whisper of destiny, and the strength of the ancient Red Warrior had all converged to ignite a spark that would grow into a blazing beacon of hope for both his old world and the new. And though the path ahead was shrouded in mystery, one thing was clear: the journey had just begun, and the legacy of the Red Hero was waiting to be written. The jungle that had so abruptly become Deku's new reality pulsed with life and mystery as he pressed further into its depths. Every step resonated with the heartbeat of ancient secrets, and every rustle in the undergrowth seemed to whisper forgotten lore. In the dim light of early morning, dew glistened on enormous ferns and twisted vines, as if nature itself were celebrating the arrival of a destined soul. Today, Deku's journey would take him deeper, not only into the jungle's secrets, but into the very core of his being. After the intense encounter at the ancient pedestal and the stirring words of the enigmatic guardian Kalen, Deku found himself compelled to seek out the sacred heart of this realm. Kalen's parting words had ignited within him a burning question: what did it truly mean to awaken the spirit of the ancient Red Warrior? Determined to find answers, Deku began to traverse winding trails lined with towering trees and luminous orchids that seemed to pulse in tandem with his heartbeat. As he ventured deeper, the landscape transformed. The dense canopy gave way to a natural amphitheater, a clearing ringed by ancient stone monoliths adorned with faded carvings and symbols whose meanings lay lost to time. Here, the very air vibrated with a palpable energy that set his nerves alight and awakened a sense of sacred anticipation. The echoes of past rituals seemed to hover in the atmosphere, inviting him to partake in a ceremony that had been written into the fabric of destiny. Deku paused at the threshold of this mystical clearing, his eyes wide as he took in every detail. The stones, moss-covered and weathered by millennia, formed a circle as though protecting an inner sanctum. In the center lay an altar, its surface etched with intricate patterns depicting warriors, mythical beasts, and swirling energies that merged sky and earth. The sight was both humbling and exhilarating, a tangible connection to a legacy of heroism that stretched far beyond his own life. Before he could step forward, a familiar presence made itself known. Kalen emerged once more from the shadowed fringe of the trees, his lined face illuminated by the gentle glow of the clearing. His eyes, deep and knowing, met Deku's with a blend of compassion and resolve. "You have come far, Deku," Kalen said in a voice that seemed to echo both in the clearing and within Deku's heart. "This place is the Temple of the Ancients, where the spirit of the Red Warrior slumbers, waiting to be awakened by one whose heart is pure and determined." Deku swallowed hard, his mind racing with both excitement and trepidation. "I feel it already," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something inside me is stirring. But how do I awaken it fully?" Kalen offered a small, encouraging smile. "The awakening is a process, one that requires you to confront not only the physical challenges of this world but also the inner battles that have long been hidden. You must embrace every facet of yourself, the strengths, the doubts, and even the fears if you are to unlock the power within." With that, Kalen motioned for Deku to follow him deeper into the temple grounds. They walked slowly along a path of smooth, worn stones, each step punctuated by the subtle hum of nature's eternal lullaby. The further they went, the more the jungle revealed its secrets. Delicate flowers that opened only at twilight, streams that glowed with a mysterious radiance, and statues of long-forgotten guardians whose eyes seemed to follow Deku's every move. At last, they arrived at a secluded chamber nestled beneath an ancient banyan tree whose roots spiraled like the veins of the earth. The chamber was circular, its walls inscribed with symbols that shimmered faintly in the half-light. A soft, almost imperceptible wind stirred the air, carrying with it the scent of incense and wild blossoms, a fragrance that spoke of rituals and promises. "This chamber," Kalen explained, "is where many before you have come to seek guidance and to undergo the ritual of awakening. It is here that the spirit of the Red Warrior will make its presence known, and it is here that you must first confront your inner self." Deku stepped forward, his heart pounding in his ears. As he approached the center of the chamber, he noticed a circular mosaic on the floor, crafted from polished stones of deep red and vibrant green. The mosaic depicted a colossal figure clad in ancient armor, its eyes closed in serene concentration. Surrounding this figure were swirling motifs that seemed to merge into intricate patterns, symbolizing the eternal dance between chaos and order. Sitting cross-legged on a low stone bench at the edge of the mosaic was an elder woman, her hair silver as moonlight and her eyes filled with both sorrow and hope. She was one of the temple's keepers, a guardian of the ancient rites. "Welcome, young one," she said in a voice that resonated with warmth and wisdom. "I am Ayana. I have tended to this sacred ground for many years, and now I shall guide you in your first step toward awakening the spirit." Deku bowed his head respectfully, feeling the weight of the moment. "Thank you, Ayana. I am ready, though my heart is still troubled by doubts." Ayana nodded gently. "It is only natural to feel trepidation when standing on the threshold of transformation. The spirit you seek to awaken is not merely a gift, it is a legacy, a power that has been passed down through the ages. To claim it, you must first confront the shadows within and embrace the light that burns inside you." Ayana rose gracefully and moved to a small wooden chest that rested against the wall. With careful hands, she retrieved an array of ancient artifacts, a set of ceremonial talismans, vials of glowing liquid, and a weathered scroll covered in symbols that pulsed with energy. "We begin with the ritual of the heart," she intoned. A ceremony designed to open the gateway to your innermost being. She gestured for Deku to sit before the mosaic. Close your eyes and let the sounds of the jungle guide you. Breathe in the energy of this sacred place, and listen to the echoes of your past, every victory, every failure, every hope that has ever lit your soul. Deku did as he was told, closing his eyes and centering himself in the quiet of the chamber. The world seemed to fade away, replaced by a profound silence punctuated only by the rhythmic pulse of nature. He recalled the countless hours spent training at UA, the relentless determination that had carried him through each hardship, and the lingering doubts that had shadowed his every achievement. Ayana's voice broke through his introspection. Now, Deku, open your heart to the spirit that resides within. Do not resist the emotions that arise, embrace them. For in every tear of sorrow, every burst of joy, lies the seed of the power you seek. As she spoke, a soft glow emanated from the mosaic beneath him. The colors deepened, the reds and greens swirling together in a mesmerizing dance of light and shadow. Deku's pulse quickened as he felt a warmth radiate from the floor into his very being, a gentle, insistent call to awaken his dormant strength. Images began to flood his mind, flashes of battles fought in the name of justice, moments of triumph intermingled with painful loss, and visions of a warrior clad in ancient armor, his eyes ablaze with determination and compassion. The vision of the Red Warrior, so vivid and compelling, stirred something deep within Deku, a primal recognition that this was not merely a figment of his imagination, but a calling woven into the tapestry of his destiny. The gentle glow of the mosaic intensified until it seemed to envelop Deku in a cocoon of light. Yet, as the brilliance grew, so too did an undercurrent of darkness, a murmur of doubts and regrets that clawed at the edges of his consciousness. He felt as though he were standing at the precipice of a vast chasm, with the promise of infinite power on one side and the abyss of his own insecurities on the other. Ayana's soothing words echoed in his ears. Do not fear the darkness, Deku. It is a part of you, as much as the light. Embrace both, and you shall find wholeness. With a deep, shuddering breath, Deku summoned every ounce of his will. He willed his mind to focus on the light, on the memory of every time he had overcome adversity and risen above despair. Slowly, the murmur of darkness began to recede, replaced by a steady, rhythmic cadence, a heartbeat that resonated with his own. In that moment, he recognized that every shadow, every moment of uncertainty, was but a stepping stone on the path to true strength. In his mind's eye, he saw the countless faces of those he wished to protect, friends, mentors, and even strangers whose lives were touched by his desire to become a hero. Their faces merged into one, a singular beacon of hope that dispelled the lingering tendrils of doubt. The voice of the ancient warrior, once distant and ethereal, now grew louder, clearer, a commanding presence that urged him to rise above his limitations. Deku! The voice intoned, rich with the resonance of ages past. The power you seek lies not in the absence of fear, but in the courage to face it head on. Embrace the entirety of your being, and let your heart guide you. Tears welled in Deku's eyes, not of sorrow, but of profound realization and acceptance. Every hardship he had endured, every moment of despair, had led him to this sacred juncture. With each breath, he felt himself growing stronger, more resilient. The internal battle was fierce, but as he surrendered to the ritual, he found himself no longer at war with his own nature. Instead, he allowed his doubts to dissolve into the ancient energies swirling around him. As the internal tempest subsided, a deep, resonant hum began to emanate from the mosaic. The colors of red and green coalesced into a brilliant, almost blinding light that enveloped Deku entirely. For a moment, he was weightless, as if floating in an endless sea of radiant energy. The boundaries between the physical world and the realm of the spirit blurred, and he felt himself becoming one with the ancient power that had long slumbered beneath the veneer of the temple. In that timeless space, he perceived the presence of the Red Warrior, a noble figure whose aura exuded both strength and compassion. The spirit's eyes, though closed in eternal meditation, seemed to glow with a fierce inner light. Deku felt an overwhelming surge of determination, as if the spirit were reaching out to merge with him, to share its wisdom and power. The sensation was both exhilarating and humbling. Memories of his own struggles, his victories and failures, cascaded through him like a torrent. In the midst of this overwhelming cascade, a single thought crystallized: He was no longer just Deku from UA, he was the heir to an ancient legacy, a beacon of hope forged by fire and tempered by resolve. Ayana's gentle voice reached him once again. Now, let the spirit fully awaken. Embrace the power that courses through you, and know that you are becoming one with the Red Warrior. With each heartbeat, you meld more deeply with this ancient force. It is not a mantle you wear lightly, but one that chooses you for the greatness within. Deku's body began to vibrate, each cell thrumming with newfound energy. The light within him pulsed in perfect harmony with his racing pulse, and he felt the boundaries of his former self shatter like fragile glass. The energy was raw and untamed, a torrent of power that both challenged and embraced him. In that moment, he knew that the awakening was not just a physical transformation, it was a spiritual rebirth. Images of past heroes, of sacrifices made and battles fought in the name of justice flashed before his eyes. The legacy of the Red Warrior was not one of mere strength, but of compassion, honor, and an unyielding commitment to protect those who could not protect themselves. With this realization, Deku's doubts melted away, replaced by a steadfast determination to honor that legacy and to forge his own path as a guardian of both his old world and this new, wild realm. When at last the brilliant light began to recede, Deku found himself kneeling in the center of the mosaic, his chest heaving with the intensity of the experience. The temple around him was silent once more, as though holding its breath in reverence of what had just transpired. Ayana approached him, her eyes filled with pride and understanding. "You have done well, Deku," she said softly, her voice a balm to his still trembling nerves. "You have embraced the duality of your spirit, the light and the darkness, and in doing so, you have awakened the power of the Red Warrior within you." Deku slowly opened his eyes, which now shimmered with a deep inner fire. For a long moment, he stared at his trembling hands as if seeing them for the first time. They pulsed with a subtle glow, the same vibrant red and green hues that had marked the mosaic. A feeling of calm clarity washed over him, mingled with the lingering echoes of the ancient power that now resided in every fiber of his being. I feel different," he murmured, awe and disbelief mingling in his voice. "Stronger, but also wiser. As if every part of me has been awakened at once." Ayana nodded. "This is but the beginning of your journey. The awakening of the spirit is a process that will continue to evolve with every challenge you face, every victory you earn, and every sacrifice you make. The power now flows within you as a reminder that you are not alone. Ancient strength and the wisdom of generations past walk beside you." Kalen, who had been silently observing from the doorway of the chamber, stepped forward and placed a firm, reassuring hand on Deku's shoulder. "The path ahead will not be easy, my friend. But remember, the spirit you now embody is one of courage, resilience, and hope. In times of despair, draw upon this inner fire, and let it guide you through the darkest of nights." Deku met Kalen's gaze, his eyes alight with determination. "I promise I will. I won't let this power go to waste. I'll honor the legacy of the Red Warrior and use it to protect those who need it most." The words hung in the air, a solemn vow that bound him not only to the ancient legacy but also to the future of both his worlds. In that sacred space, beneath the watchful gaze of ancestors and ancient guardians, Deku felt a profound connection, a merging of his past struggles and his newfound destiny. The transformation was complete, and with it came a responsibility that was as heavy as it was inspiring. Outside the chamber, the jungle itself seemed to sense the shift. The once muted calls of nocturnal creatures now rose in a jubilant chorus, as if nature itself were celebrating the birth of a new guardian. The air was charged with anticipation, every leaf and branch resonating with the promise of transformation and renewal. Deku slowly rose to his feet, feeling the power within him settle into a steady rhythm, a living, breathing force that pulsed with every beat of his heart. The light that had once erupted so brilliantly was now a steady glow, a reminder of the immense potential that lay within him. It was a power that transcended the physical, a gift of the spirit that would guide him through the trials ahead. As he stepped out of the sacred chamber, Kalen and Ayana accompanied him, their presence a comforting reminder that he was not alone in this journey. They walked together along a winding stone path that led back toward the heart of the temple, the ancient carvings along the walls now seeming to shimmer with a new vitality, a silent acknowledgement of the power that had been awakened. "Your journey is far from over, Deku," Kalen said quietly as they walked. Today, you have embraced the spirit of the Red Warrior. Tomorrow, you will begin to understand how to harness and wield this power in the world beyond these sacred grounds. There will be challenges that test not only your strength but your resolve, your compassion, and your ability to lead. Deku nodded, his mind already racing with the possibilities and the responsibilities that lay ahead. Every lesson he had learned at UA, every moment of hardship and perseverance, had led him to this singular point in time. Now, armed with the ancient power and the wisdom of the past, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Before the day's first light fully broke over the horizon, the temple grounds began to stir with quiet activity. Other guardians, ethereal and enigmatic, appeared at the periphery, their forms barely distinguishable from the shifting mists that rolled in with the dawn. They offered nods of silent acknowledgement, each one a living testament to the ancient legacy that had now been entrusted to Deku. Ayana guided him to a quiet spot beneath an ancient oak, its gnarled branches weaving a protective canopy overhead. "Take this time to reflect on what you have experienced," she advised gently. "The spirit of the Red Warrior is a part of you now, but it is also a responsibility. With every decision you make, you will shape not only your future but the fate of those who depend on you." Deku sank down against the sturdy trunk, letting the cool, rough bark remind him of the solidity of his newfound purpose. He closed his eyes and allowed the sounds of the awakening jungle to fill his ears, the gentle rustle of leaves, the soft murmur of a nearby stream, and the distant call of a creature long at home in this wild domain. In that moment of quiet introspection, he realized that every heartbeat was now a declaration of his commitment to a path that would test every fiber of his being. He thought of his days at UA, of the struggles and triumphs that had shaped him, and of the countless lives that now rested on his shoulders. The journey had taken him far from the familiar corridors of his former life, into a realm where ancient power and modern heroism converged. With each recollection, the light within him grew brighter, a steady flame that promised to guide him even in the darkest of times. As the morning matured into a radiant day, Deku rose from his moment of reflection with a renewed sense of purpose. He stood tall, shoulders squared, and took a deep breath of the jungle air, a mixture of damp earth, wild blossoms, and ancient magic. The power of the Red Warrior pulsed steadily within him, a constant reminder of the legacy he had inherited and the future he was destined to shape. With Kalen and Ayana by his side, he began to walk back toward the temple's grand entrance. The journey was symbolic, a passage from the inner sanctum of transformation to the outer world where his newfound abilities would be put to the test. Every step he took was measured and deliberate, a silent promise to himself that he would honor this power and use it for the greater good. "Remember, Deku," Kalen intoned as they neared the threshold of the temple. "This awakening is not a destination but the beginning of a lifelong journey. Embrace every lesson, every challenge, and every victory as a step toward becoming the hero you were always meant to be." Deku's gaze met Kalen's, and in that shared moment, the unspoken understanding of destiny was clear. He was no longer merely a student or a trainee, he was now the embodiment of an ancient legacy, a warrior reborn through the union of his indomitable spirit and the raw, untamed power of nature. The Red Warrior was alive within him, and with that realization came both the burden of responsibility and the exhilarating promise of endless possibilities. As the temple receded behind him, the jungle opened up to reveal a breathtaking vista, a sprawling expanse of wild, verdant beauty stretching toward the horizon, where the rising sun painted the sky in hues of gold, red, and green. It was a landscape of both promise and peril, a world that teemed with life, challenges, and mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Deku paused at the edge of a rocky outcrop, gazing out over the untamed wilderness. In that quiet moment, the enormity of his transformation settled around him like a mantle. The power that surged within him was more than just physical, it was a melding of past and present, a bridge between the traditions of ancient heroes and the modern aspirations of a new age. He could feel it in every beat of his heart, every surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. "I will use this power wisely," he murmured to himself, a vow forged in the silent communion of nature and destiny. "I will honor the legacy of the Red Warrior, and I will protect those who cannot protect themselves." The wind whispered around him, carrying with it the voices of the ancestors, their murmurs blending with the rustling of leaves and the distant roar of a waterfall. It was as if the very elements were speaking to him, encouraging him to take the next step into a future that was as uncertain as it was promising. With a final look toward the horizon, Deku turned back, ready to rejoin his mentors and allies in the heart of the jungle. The path ahead would be fraught with trials, but he no longer felt the weight of isolation. The spirit of the Red Warrior now coursed through him, a constant, luminous guide that would lead him through the darkest of nights and the brightest of days. As the sun ascended higher in the sky, casting long shadows and bathing the jungle in a warm, golden glow, Deku felt a profound sense of renewal. His journey had taken him from the familiar corridors of UA into a realm where ancient magic and modern heroism converged, a realm where he had awakened a spirit that would forever alter the course of his destiny. The jungle around him was alive with promise. Birds soared overhead in graceful arcs, their calls a jubilant celebration of the new day. The forest floor, rich with the detritus of centuries past, was now illuminated by the radiant light of a hero reborn. Every step, every breath, was a testament to the power that lay dormant within him and the limitless possibilities that now stretched out before him. Deku's thoughts turned to the future, a future where he would face challenges that would test his mettle, forge alliances that would shape the fate of both his worlds, and confront adversaries who sought to upset the delicate balance between order and chaos. But in that moment, with the spirit of the Red Warrior pulsating at his core, he felt ready to meet those challenges head-on. He knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, filled with battles that would push him to the brink. Yet, the transformation he had undergone was not simply a change in form, it was the birth of a new identity, one that carried the wisdom of the past and the hope for a better future. With every beat of his heart, Deku reaffirmed his commitment to the legacy of heroism, the mantle of responsibility that now rested upon his shoulders. As he continued on his path, the jungle seemed to part before him, revealing hidden trails and secret groves, a labyrinth of nature's own design, guiding him onward. The air was thick with the promise of adventure, each rustle of leaves and distant call a reminder that he was no longer alone. The ancient guardians, the keepers of this sacred realm, were with him, and the spirit of the Red Warrior would never abandon him. By the time Deku reached a small clearing near a bubbling brook, his heart was filled with a quiet confidence. Here, in this natural sanctuary, he found a moment of solace, a brief respite from the relentless tide of transformation and destiny. The water sparkled in the sunlight, each ripple a symbol of the ever-changing yet eternal nature of life. He knelt by the water's edge and allowed himself a moment to simply be, to breathe, to feel, to honor the journey that had brought him to this pivotal moment. In the gentle murmur of the stream, he heard the echoes of his own heartbeat, steady and resolute. It was a sound that spoke of perseverance, of battles fought and won, and of a future that promised growth and redemption. In that reflective stillness, Deku's thoughts wandered back to the faces of those he had left behind and those he had yet to meet. Each memory, each dream, was interwoven with the threads of his destiny. The light of the Red Warrior shone within him, not as a blinding force, but as a guiding star that would forever illuminate the path forward. Rising from his quiet reverie, Deku felt the stirring of a new resolve. The awakening was complete, but it was also only the beginning. Every challenge that lay ahead would test him in ways he could scarcely imagine, but with the spirit of the ancient warrior now firmly a part of him, he was ready to face whatever came his way. He looked toward the horizon once more, where the jungle met the sky in an endless embrace of possibility. "I am ready," he whispered, his voice carrying on the wind, a promise to himself and to all who would one day follow in his footsteps. With renewed purpose, Deku set off along the trail that led deeper into the unknown. Each step was deliberate, a testament to the unyielding strength that now defined him. The jungle, with its ancient secrets and vibrant life, had become his home, and in its embrace he would learn to harness the full measure of his power. Every rustle of foliage, every call of a distant creature was a reminder that he was a part of something much greater than himself, a living tapestry of myth, memory, and destiny. The awakening of the spirit had not erased his past. Rather, it had transformed it into a source of boundless energy, a fuel for the hero he was destined to become. The path before him was uncertain, and the challenges that awaited were formidable. Yet, as the spirit of the Red Warrior pulsed steadily within him, Deku knew that he was no longer defined by his doubts or his fears. He was defined by his choices, his determination, and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest of times, the light of hope would guide him forward. In that moment, beneath a sky streaked with the colors of a new dawn, Deku embraced his destiny fully. The journey ahead would be long, filled with trials that would test the limits of his resolve, but he was ready to meet them head-on. With the ancient power as his ally and the wisdom of the ages as his guide, he would forge a path not just for himself, but for all those who believed in the possibility of a better, brighter future. As the sun climbed higher, casting a brilliant light across the sprawling expanse of the jungle, Deku felt an overwhelming sense of unity, a deep connection to the world around him and to the legacy that had been entrusted to him. Every step he took was a step toward realizing the full extent of his power, every heartbeat a drumbeat heralding the rise of a new hero. The echoes of ancient chants, the silent prayers of those who had come before, and the resolute promise of a future filled with hope mingled within him, creating a symphony of purpose that resonated with the very core of his being. He was no longer merely a student of heroism. He had become an integral part of its eternal cycle, a guardian whose journey would inspire countless others to rise above their limitations and embrace the light within. In the unfolding narrative of his life, this moment marked not an end, but the commencement of an epic saga, one that would weave together the threads of past and present, myth and reality, into a tapestry of heroism that transcended time. With the spirit of the Red Warrior now awakened within him, Deku took his first decisive steps into a future that shimmered with the promise of redemption, sacrifice, and the undying light of hope. The jungle, ever alive and ever watchful, seemed to lean in as if to witness the birth of a legend. The ancient trees whispered secrets of ages past, and the gentle breeze carried the timeless promise that every ending was also a beginning. In the interplay of light and shadow, of sound and silence, Deku found a deep, unshakable resolve, a pledge that no matter how dark the night, the dawn would always return, bringing with it a new chance to shine. Today, in the quiet aftermath of his awakening, Deku was more than just a young hero in training. He was the embodiment of a legacy that spanned generations, a living testament to the enduring power of hope, courage, and the unbreakable will to overcome. With every step forward, he carried the weight of this legacy, not as a burden, but as a beacon to light the way for those who would one day follow in his footsteps. As the jungle's symphony of life and magic enveloped him, Deku paused for a final moment to take in the beauty of his transformed world. He could hear the soft murmur of a distant waterfall, the rustling of leaves in the gentle wind, and the steady rhythm of his own heartbeat, a heartbeat that now pulsed with the ancient power of the Red Warrior. In that sacred instant, he realized that the journey of awakening was a never-ending path, one that would continue to evolve with each new challenge and every victory, every loss and every lesson learned. The spirit of the Red Warrior, awakened within him through ritual and introspection, was not a fleeting force but a constant companion, a living flame that would guide him through the twists and turns of fate. It was the promise that no matter where the path led, the light of his courage would never waver, and the legacy of heroism would endure in every breath he took. With the first rays of a new day illuminating the jungle's depths, Deku stepped forward into the unknown with his heart alight and his purpose clear. The awakening was complete, but the journey had only just begun. Every moment from here on out would be a testament to the spirit that now resided within him, a spirit forged in the crucible of ancient power and tempered by the trials of the human heart. And so, as the jungle welcomed him as its new guardian and the spirit of the Red Warrior shone brightly within his soul, Deku embraced his destiny with unwavering resolve. He was ready to face the challenges that lay ahead, to honor the legacy of those who had come before, and to forge a future where the light of hope would forever banish the shadows of doubt. In the vast, ever-changing tapestry of life, this day marked the rebirth of a hero, a new chapter in a saga that spanned the realms of myth and reality. With every step, every breath, Deku vowed to carry the power of the ancient warrior within him, transforming every challenge into an opportunity to rise, every hardship into a lesson, and every victory into a beacon of hope for the generations yet to come. The spirit had awakened, and with it, the promise of a new dawn beckoned, a dawn that would illuminate the path of destiny and light the way for a hero reborn. Deku's journey into the heart of the jungle had only just begun. The lush, sprawling wilderness before him was a realm of both breathtaking beauty and formidable danger, a place where ancient secrets mingled with the raw force of nature. The trials that awaited were as unpredictable as they were challenging, a crucible meant to test not only his physical prowess but also the strength of his spirit. Every step he took on the tangled, vine-choked paths was a step into the unknown, where the echoes of nature's ancient heartbeat urged him onward. The morning light filtered through a dense canopy of leaves overhead, creating a mosaic of sun and shadow on the forest floor. Deku paused for a moment, taking in the humid air heavy with the scent of damp earth, wild orchids, and the subtle hint of danger. His senses were on high alert. Every rustle in the undergrowth, every bird call, every distant snap of a twig reminded him that this was no ordinary jungle. This was a living, breathing entity, pulsating with a power that both intimidated and inspired him. His newfound abilities as the awakened Red Warrior had given him strength, but the jungle demanded something different: resilience, adaptability, and an intimate connection with nature's unpredictable rhythms. Deku's heart pounded in anticipation as he adjusted his footing on a narrow, muddy trail that wound its way between towering trees and ancient ferns. With each step, the jungle seemed to challenge him, testing his resolve and forcing him to rely on both his instinct and his training from Yue. A sudden movement in the corner of his vision caught his eye, a flash of motion, almost like a shadow slipping between the trees. Deku tensed, muscles coiled, and reached for the resolve that had seen him through so many trials before. He paused, listening intently, trying to decipher whether it was friend or foe. The jungle had a way of disguising danger and beauty, and in this place, nothing was ever as it seemed. Just as he began to relax, the underbrush rustled again. Deku's heart raced as he crept forward cautiously, his eyes scanning for any sign of movement. Suddenly, a small creature no larger than a squirrel but with the fierce eyes of a predator dashed out from behind a fallen log. It wasn't hostile, merely curious. Deku smiled inwardly. Even in this intimidating environment, the jungle's denizens were adapting and thriving. This brief encounter reminded him that every living being here was a part of the jungle's great tapestry. The path soon grew more treacherous. Dense thickets, gnarled roots, and sudden drops created a labyrinth of natural obstacles that Deku had to overcome. His training at Yue had prepared him for urban disasters and superhuman foes, but this was an entirely different kind of challenge. Here, every step was a battle against gravity and nature itself. Navigating a narrow ridge along a steep embankment, Deku's heart pounded as he balanced precariously on slick stones. One misstep could send him tumbling into a churning river below. He recalled the lessons of perseverance and focused his body moving almost on autopilot, every muscle engaged in the dance of survival. The jungle was a relentless teacher, imparting wisdom through harsh lessons and sudden, often painful, trials. As he continued along the ridge, a sudden downpour transformed the once solid ground into a slick, muddy slide. Rain pounded from the sky, drenching him in moments. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the canopy overhead darkened ominously. The storm was as much a part of the jungle's trial as the physical terrain, forcing Deku to seek shelter under the sprawling branches of a massive banyan tree. The storm's fury was overwhelming, a cacophony of wind, rain, and lightning that set the jungle ablaze with energy. In that wild downpour, every sense was heightened. The relentless drumming of rain against the leaves, the sharp tang of ozone in the air, and the staccato bursts of thunder all combined to create an atmosphere charged with raw power. Deku huddled beneath the protective boughs, using the moment of reprieve to gather his thoughts and recalibrate his focus. Inside this natural sanctuary, the lessons of the jungle became clear. Nature was both a source of life and a formidable force that could strip away all pretenses of safety. The storm was a reminder that every element, earth, water, wind, and fire, played a role in the grand symphony of the wild. Here, in the midst of nature's wrath, Deku learned that true strength lay in the ability to adapt, to harness the chaos rather than fight against it. As the storm began to subside and the first timid rays of sunlight broke through the lingering clouds, Deku emerged from his temporary shelter with renewed determination. The jungle, now washed clean by the rain, shimmered with a renewed vibrancy. Each leaf glistened with droplets, and the air was filled with the earthy aroma of fresh rain, a reminder of nature's capacity for both destruction and rebirth. While continuing along the narrow trail, Deku's keen eyes detected movement ahead, a subtle shift among the undergrowth that suggested he was not alone. He instinctively lowered himself into a crouched stance, ready for whatever might reveal itself. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from the thrill of the unknown. Emerging from behind a copse of ancient trees was a group of figures, moving with a grace and fluidity that spoke of years spent in harmony with the wild. They were clad in garments that blended seamlessly with the foliage hues of deep green and earthy brown, and their eyes held the steady calm of those who had seen the jungle's secrets and survived its trials. "Greetings, traveler," a clear, melodious voice called out as the group halted their approach. A woman with braided hair adorned with feathers and leaves stepped forward, her posture both welcoming and resolute. "I am Suri, guardian of these lands. We have watched your progress, and it is clear that the jungle has chosen you, as it chooses all who are destined to protect its sacred heart." Deku rose slowly, his posture respectful and cautious. "I am Deku," he replied, his voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling in his mind. "I have been called here by fate and by the spirit of the Red Warrior. I mean no harm, only to learn and to grow." Suri exchanged a knowing smile with the tall, broad-shouldered figure standing at her side, a man whose eyes shone with the quiet intensity of one who had fought many battles. "I am Raul, a sentinel of these wild domains," he introduced. "Your arrival, young warrior, signals a time of change. The jungle tests all who enter its embrace, and only those who prove themselves through its trials may rise to defend it." The small band of guardians slowly gathered around Deku, each one a living embodiment of the jungle's spirit. They explained that the trials he was about to face were not merely physical obstacles but also spiritual rights challenges designed to awaken his innate connection to nature and to test his ability to work in harmony with the wild forces around him. Over the next few hours, as they trekked deeper into the verdant maze, Suri and Raul became his guides and mentors. They led him along hidden paths known only to those who had dedicated their lives to understanding the jungle's rhythms. Under their tutelage, Deku learned to listen to the whispers of the wind, to interpret the messages written in the patterns of raindrops on leaves, and to sense the subtle shifts in the energy of the earth. "Every trial here is a lesson," Suri explained as they paused beside a crystal-clear stream. "The jungle teaches us through its cycles growth, decay, and renewal. In each moment, there is an opportunity to learn, to adapt, and to emerge stronger than before." Raul demonstrated how to move silently through the underbrush, his every step deliberate and measured. "The jungle does not care for clamor," he said. "It rewards those who respect its silence and understand its language." Deku followed Raul's movements, practicing the art of stealth and observation. With each careful step, he felt himself becoming more attuned to the natural world, a subtle yet profound shift in his perception that would serve him well in the trials to come. Before long, the group reached an ancient clearing dominated by a massive, gnarled tree that seemed to pulse with an inner life. Its roots twisted like serpents around enormous stones, and its trunk was scarred with the markings of countless years. Here, the guardians explained, lay the first trial, a test of strength, agility, and the ability to harmonize with nature's unpredictable force. "This is the trial of the Guardian's Leap," Raul announced, his voice echoing off the surrounding trees. "Legend tells that those who can cross this chasm without faltering prove their commitment to the jungle's spirit." Before Deku stretched out his eyes, he saw a wide, yawning gap between two natural outcroppings, a chasm that seemed to separate the known from the unknown. Suspended over the void was a precarious network of vines, tangled and slick from the earlier rain. The vines swung gently in the breeze, their movements as unpredictable as the currents of a raging river. Deku's heart raced as he surveyed the challenge. The vines offered the only path forward, and crossing the chasm would require not only physical strength but also the courage to trust in the unseen and echo of the lessons he had learned during his awakening. Taking a deep breath, he stepped onto the first vine, its coarse fibers brushing against his skin, as if testing his resolve. With arms outstretched for balance, Deku began to traverse the gap. Every step was a test of his strength, his balance, and his unwavering focus. The vines swayed dangerously under his weight, and the abyss below threatened to engulf him with every misstep. Yet, he recalled the gentle guidance of his mentors, the whispered encouragement of the jungle's ancient spirit that now dwelled within him. Halfway across, a sudden gust of wind rattled the vines. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, Deku teetered on the brink of falling. His mind flashed with memories of the storm, the harsh lessons of the wild, and the promise he had made to honor the legacy of the Red Warrior. Clenching his fists and drawing upon the strength of his newfound powers, he steadied himself and continued onward, step by deliberate step. As he finally set foot on solid ground on the far side of the chasm, a surge of triumphant relief flooded through him. The guardians cheered quietly, their smiles full of pride and understanding. "Well done, Deku," Suri said softly, her eyes sparkling with genuine warmth. "You have taken your first true step in embracing the jungle's trials, but the path ahead was not so easily conquered. The clearing itself was only the beginning, a prelude to challenges that would stretch his endurance, sharpen his instincts, and force him to confront both external threats and the shadows within his own heart." No sooner had Deku caught his breath than a low, resonant growl echoed through the clearing. The jungle fell suddenly silent, as if every living creature had paused to listen. From the dense thicket emerged a massive, sinewy beast-a creature of the jungle that looked like a cross between a panther and a wild boar. Its eyes glowed with a predatory intensity, and its snarling breath revealed rows of sharp teeth. The creature advanced slowly, every muscle rippling beneath its sleek hide. Deku's instincts kicked in immediately. His training and the power of the awakened spirit surged through him, urging him to stand his ground. The beast circled him, testing his resolve. For a moment, time seemed to slow, the heartbeat of the jungle and his own thumped in unison. "Remember, Deku!" Raal's voice rang out calmly from behind him. "In the jungle, every creature plays its role. Today, you face a trial of survival, one where understanding your opponent is as vital as the strength to overcome it." Drawing a deep breath, Deku allowed his mind to clear. Instead of meeting the beast with blind aggression, he observed its movements, its patterns, and the subtle cues in its behavior. The beast lunged suddenly, and Deku sidestepped with a speed that surprised even himself. In a fluid motion, he countered with a series of precise strikes, a blend of martial prowess and the intuitive movements bestowed upon him by the jungle's ancient spirit. The beast snarled, its powerful frame recoiling slightly from the unexpected resistance. The clash between Deku and the creature was a dance, a test of agility, timing, and respect for the natural order. Each blow he delivered was measured, each movement calculated to ensure that the encounter remained a contest of wills rather than a mindless brawl. Minutes passed like hours as the two circled one another in a deadly ballet. Finally, with one last decisive maneuver, Deku managed to subdue the creature without causing it fatal harm, a gesture of respect for the balance of life in the jungle. The beast, acknowledging his strength and the purity of his intent, slowly backed away before disappearing into the dense foliage. Breathing heavily, Deku lowered his arms, his pulse gradually returning to a steady rhythm. The guardians approached him, their expressions a mixture of admiration and quiet approval. "Today, you learned the art of combat in the wild," Suri said. "You fought not as a mindless warrior, but as one who understands the delicate balance between predator and prey." The physical challenges of the jungle were only half of the battle. As dusk approached, casting long, shifting shadows between the trees, Deku found himself alone on a narrow, winding path. The light faded slowly, and with it came a profound quiet that stirred memories of doubt and internal conflict. The trials of the jungle demanded not only physical fortitude but also an unyielding clarity of mind, a willingness to confront the inner demons that threatened to undermine his resolve. In the deepening twilight, the jungle seemed to transform. The vibrant hues of the day gave way to a dreamlike interplay of shadow and silence. Every rustle in the dark hinted at unseen presences, and every flicker of movement in the periphery of his vision sparked moments of introspection. Here, away from the guidance of his mentors, Deku was forced to confront the fears and uncertainties that had long lingered in the recesses of his soul. Sitting beneath a towering kapok tree, its colossal trunk a silent witness to centuries of struggle and triumph, Deku closed his eyes. He allowed the murmurs of the forest, a soft symphony of nocturnal creatures, the gentle whisper of leaves in the breeze, and the distant murmur of a hidden waterfall to wash over him. In that profound solitude, he began to meditate, drawing on the power of the awakened spirit that now resided within him. In the stillness of the night, memories flooded his mind, moments of triumph at Yue, the sacrifices made by his mentors, and the ever-present doubts that had shadowed every step of his journey. Faces of friends and foes mingled in his thoughts, and the internal battle between hope and despair raged within him. The jungle, with its ancient wisdom, seemed to hold a mirror to his soul, a reflection of both his strength and his vulnerabilities. As he meditated, the gentle cadence of his breathing gradually aligned with the heartbeat of the jungle. In that union, he found a clarity that had long eluded him, a recognition that every fear, every uncertainty, was a part of his path toward growth. The darkness was not something to be feared, but rather an essential component of the cycle of transformation. The more he embraced the shadows within, the more the light of his true self shone forth. Rising from his meditation with a sense of quiet determination, Deku resolved to face whatever trials the jungle still held in store. The mental battle was far from over, but in that moment, he felt ready. The clarity of his inner vision was like a beacon, a light that would guide him through the labyrinth of his own doubts and lead him to a future defined not by fear, but by the courage to embrace every aspect of his being. As the night deepened, the temperature dropped, and a silvery mist began to roll in from the distant hills. Deku resumed his journey along a narrow, moonlit trail, where the interplay of light and shadow gave the landscape an ethereal quality. The jungle was alive in the quiet hours, its nocturnal inhabitants emerging to reclaim their realm. It was then that he encountered an old, weathered shrine hidden deep among the ferns. The shrine, constructed of stone and overgrown with ivy, exuded a timeless aura of reverence. Drawn by an inexplicable force, Deku approached it, his footsteps silent on the soft ground. At the shrine's base lay a carved inscription, an ancient proverb that spoke of unity between man and nature, and the importance of balancing inner turmoil with the serenity of the natural world. He knelt before the inscription, tracing its lines with trembling fingers. In that quiet moment, the weight of his journey, the trials of the jungle, the battles both external and internal settled upon him. It was a lesson in humility and perseverance, a reminder that every challenge, no matter how daunting, was a stepping stone toward becoming the hero he was destined to be. As he sat in contemplation, the gentle sound of a flute drifted through the mist. Startled at first, Deku listened as the melody grew clearer, a tune that resonated with the ancient rhythms of the forest. Soon, a lithe figure emerged from behind the shrine, a young man with eyes like polished amber, and a smile that was both mysterious and inviting. He introduced himself as Terran, a wanderer who had dedicated his life to understanding the spiritual language of the jungle. "Terran," Deku said softly. "Your music, it feels like the voice of the forest itself." Terran's eyes sparkled with quiet wisdom. "The jungle speaks to those who listen," he replied. "Its trials are not just obstacles to overcome, but lessons to be learned. Every note of this melody carries a fragment of our shared history, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is beauty and hope." The two spent several hours beneath the moonlit sky, discussing the delicate balance of nature, the inevitability of change, and the inner strength required to navigate life's tumultuous journey. Terran's insights, delivered in gentle, lyrical tones, filled Deku with a newfound perspective, a realization that the trials he faced were not mere hardships, but essential parts of a grand tapestry that wove together the past, present, and future of both his worlds. As dawn approached and the first hints of light began to banish the night's shadows, Deku and his newfound allies arrived at the edge of a vast clearing. Here, the jungle opened up into an expansive field of wild grasses and ancient stone structures, a natural amphitheater that had witnessed countless ceremonies over the ages. It was here that the final trial of the day awaited, a test of endurance, courage, and the ability to unite the lessons of the physical and mental realms. Before them stood a series of obstacles, each one a manifestation of the jungle's multifaceted challenges. There were steep embankments to scale, treacherous paths to navigate, and even a shallow but swirling pool of water that required careful crossing. More daunting still were the symbolic obstacles, stone statues of long-forgotten warriors whose stony gazes seemed to demand that every step be taken with purpose and integrity. With the guidance of Suri, Raal, and Terran, Deku embarked on this final test. The journey through the clearing was a blur of sweat, determination, and moments of near despair that were quickly overcome by the surge of inner strength he had cultivated in the trials before. Each obstacle forced him to dig deep, drawing upon every lesson learned from the jungle's harsh tutelage. And with every small victory, a foothold gained on a slippery slope, a leap of faith over a narrow chasm, his confidence grew. At one particularly perilous point, a narrow stone bridge spanned a deep fissure. The winds howled, and the stone beneath his feet trembled under the force of nature. For a moment, Deku hesitated, memories of previous missteps and near falls threatening to overwhelm him. But then he closed his eyes, recalling the whispered encouragement of Terran's flute, the steady guidance of Ral's voice, and the nurturing wisdom of Suri's eyes. With a deep, steadying breath, he stepped forward. Each careful footfall on the ancient stones reaffirmed his commitment to the path of the Red Warrior, a path not defined by the absence of fear, but by the courage to face it head-on. When he finally reached the far side of the fissure, the first rays of the rising sun broke over the horizon, casting a golden glow that seemed to herald the promise of a new day. The guardians gathered around him, their expressions a mixture of pride and relief. "You have passed the trial of the jungle," Ral said softly, placing a firm hand on Deku's shoulder. "You have shown that you are not only strong in body, but resilient in spirit. The jungle has accepted you as one of its own." In the quiet moments that followed the final test, as the jungle slowly came alive with the sounds of a new morning, Deku allowed himself a moment of introspection. Sitting on a large, moss-covered boulder at the edge of the clearing, he gazed out over the vast expanse of wild terrain that stretched before him, a tapestry of green and gold, life and mystery. He thought of the trials he had faced that day, the perilous leaps across chasms, the fierce battle with the jungle's predator, the inner struggles that had threatened to consume him in the silence of the night. With each challenge, he had grown stronger, more attuned to the pulse of nature, and more determined to fulfill the destiny that had been thrust upon him. The lessons of the jungle were as timeless as they were profound. It was not enough to simply possess power. One had to understand it, respect it, and use it to foster balance in a world where chaos and order were forever entwined. In that realization, Deku found both comfort and an exhilarating sense of purpose. He vowed then that he would honor the trials of the jungle not as obstacles to be overcome, but as stepping stones on his path to becoming the hero he was meant to be. Every scar, every bruise, every moment of doubt would serve as a reminder of his journey, a testament to the enduring strength of the spirit that now dwelled within him. With the sun high in the sky and the jungle bursting with life, Deku rose from the boulder, his heart light and his determination resolute. His mentors Suri, Ral, and Terran gathered around him, their faces reflecting both the wisdom of the ancient wilderness and the hope of a new era. They spoke in hushed tones of what lay ahead, more formidable trials, deeper mysteries, and the promise of alliances that would stretch across the boundaries of worlds. "Today, you have proven that you can face the jungle's tests with both might and mindfulness," Suri said gently. "But remember, the journey is long, and the path is winding. Each trial you overcome only leads to new challenges, new lessons that will shape you into the guardian this world desperately needs." Deku nodded, absorbing every word. "I understand," he replied, his voice firm. "I will continue to learn, to grow, and to honor the legacy of the Red Warrior. The jungle has shown me that true strength is found in the harmony between body, mind, and spirit." Ral clapped him on the back, a rare smile breaking through his stoic expression. "You have the heart of a true warrior, Deku. Now let's prepare you for what comes next." As the guardians led him along a winding trail back toward their hidden camp, Deku felt a profound shift within himself. The trials of the day had not only honed his physical abilities but had also awakened a deeper understanding of his role in the grand tapestry of life. The jungle had become both a teacher and a battleground, a place where every challenge was an opportunity to rise above, to forge an unbreakable bond with the wild spirit that pulsed at the core of existence. By late afternoon, the group reached a secluded clearing where a makeshift camp had been established. Tents constructed from natural fibers, fire pits with carefully arranged stones, and tables laden with fresh fruits and herbs spoke of a community that thrived in harmony with nature. Here, the guardians rested and regrouped, sharing stories of past trials and the wisdom gleaned from the jungle's relentless lessons. Over a communal meal, the conversation turned to the future. Terran, who had shared his insights earlier by the shrine, spoke softly about the challenges that lay ahead, not only the physical confrontations with foes lurking in the wild but also the complex interplay of destiny and duty that would soon draw Deku into conflicts beyond the jungle. "You have already faced much today," Terran observed, his tone reflective. "But remember, the trials you have overcome are just the beginning. There are forces in this world that seek to disrupt the balance, and soon you will have to stand not only as a guardian of the jungle but as a bridge between worlds." Deku listened intently, feeling the weight of Terran's words sink in. The journey that had begun as a test of his newfound powers was evolving into a mission that spanned dimensions, a call to protect not only the untamed wilds of the jungle, but also the fragile hopes of a world in need. As the campfire crackled and the stars emerged in the twilight sky, Deku retreated to a quiet corner of the camp. There, under the vast expanse of the night, he allowed himself a moment of solitude. The trials of the day played back in his mind like a vivid tapestry montage of heart-stopping leaps, fierce battles, and quiet moments of introspection. Each memory was a brushstroke in the portrait of the hero he was becoming. He vowed then, silently to the starry heavens above, that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with the unwavering resolve that the jungle had instilled in him. The trials were his teachers, his mentors, and his crucible, and in their relentless, unforgiving embrace, he would forge a destiny that honored the legacy of the Red Warrior and ensured that hope would always triumph over despair. As the camp settled into a peaceful slumber beneath the watchful gaze of the ancient trees, Deku lay awake for a long while, his mind a quiet storm of thoughts and emotions. Outside, the jungle hummed with nocturnal life, a gentle, persistent lullaby that promised both comfort and challenge in the days to come. In that silent vigil, Deku realized that the trials of the jungle had given him more than just physical strength. They had awakened in him a profound connection to the world around him, a recognition that every obstacle, every challenge, was a vital part of the journey toward true heroism. With each trial, he had learned to trust not only in his own abilities but also in the mysterious, ancient force that now flowed within his veins. The night wore on, and as the first hints of dawn began to tint the sky with soft hues of pink and gold, Deku rose from his makeshift bed with a renewed sense of purpose. The jungle had tested him in ways he never imagined, and though the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger, he knew that each trial was a step toward realizing his destiny. Stepping out into the cool morning light, Deku felt the pulse of the jungle at his feet, a steady, rhythmic heartbeat that echoed his own. With the trials behind him and countless challenges yet to face, he embraced the new day as a promise of growth, resilience, and the unwavering hope that defined his journey as the Red Warrior. In the sprawling wilderness of the jungle, where every leaf and shadow held the story of ages past, Deku's trials had only just begun. Each step was a declaration of his commitment to a destiny that transcended the boundaries of his former life. A journey that would forge him into a guardian whose strength was measured not only in physical might but in the courage to face the unpredictable, often unforgiving forces of nature and fate alike. The jungle, alive with secrets and steeped in ancient wisdom, had become his proving ground, a place where the fusion of past and present, light and darkness, mortal and myth, converged into a single, unyielding path forward. And as Deku ventured deeper into its verdant heart, every trial he overcame, every lesson he learned, added another layer to the legacy of the Red Warrior, a legacy that promised to illuminate the darkest corners of both his world and the untamed wilds that now called to him with an eternal, beckoning whisper. Deku's heart pounded like a tribal drum as he stepped out of the relative safety of the camp and into the deeper reaches of the jungle. The trials he had overcome, the precarious leaps, the fierce battle with nature's raw beasts, and the introspective nights beneath ancient trees had prepared him for this moment. Yet nothing could have truly readied him for the encounter that now loomed like a dark specter on the horizon. The jungle, alive with the morning's vibrant chorus of birdsong and rustling leaves, felt suddenly subdued, as if the very heartbeat of nature had faltered. A heavy, foreboding silence settled in the air, a silence that spoke of imminent danger and promised chaos. Deku felt the familiar stirring of the Red Warrior's spirit within him, a pulsing warmth that was both comforting and alarming. He had learned to trust in that inner fire. Now it would be put to its ultimate test. As Deku advanced along a narrow, winding trail marked by gnarled roots and ancient stone carvings, a tremor in the earth underfoot made him pause. The vibrations were not those of the steady pulse of the jungle he had come to know. They were erratic and jagged, like the frantic heartbeat of a wounded beast. His eyes darted to the treetops, scanning for any sign of movement or anomaly. The light filtering through the dense canopy cast long, distorted shadows on the forest floor, lending the scene an almost surreal, nightmare quality. In the distance, where the trees began to thin out into a clearing, a low, guttural growl rumbled through the still air. Deku's grip tightened on his makeshift gauntlet, the symbol of his newfound powers, and he steeled himself. Every instinct told him that something dark and dangerous was emerging from the gloom, something that did not belong to the natural order of this realm. It was as if the jungle itself was warning him of a malignant presence that threatened its sacred balance. Before he could react further, a figure materialized at the edge of the clearing. Cloaked in shadow, the enemy's form was barely discernible at first, a swirling mass of dark energy that defied the comforting hues of the jungle. As the creature stepped forward, details emerged: sinewy, elongated limbs, eyes that burned with an eerie, unnatural light, and a body that seemed to ripple with malevolent power. It was not an ordinary beast of the jungle, but a creature born of corruption, a living embodiment of decay and darkness, intent on unbalancing the harmony of the wild. Deku's breath caught in his throat as the creature drew closer, its eyes fixed on him with predatory intensity. In that instant, the jungle's usual vibrant colors dulled, as if the very light was being siphoned away by the enemy's presence. Every instinct screamed at Deku to flee, yet he stood his ground, the resolve of the Red Warrior igniting every fiber of his being. "Who are you?" Deku called out, his voice steady despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. He knew that in this moment, hesitation could prove fatal not only for him, but for the jungle he had come to revere. The creature's reply was not in words but in a deep, resonant snarl that vibrated through the air, carrying with it a promise of violence. It circled him slowly, each deliberate step measured and predatory. Deku could feel its malice like a physical weight pressing down on him. The spirit inside him whispered encouragement, a reminder that his newfound power was not merely a gift, but a responsibility. He needed to protect this realm, no matter the cost. A sudden flash of movement broke the standoff. Without warning, the creature lunged forward, its speed astonishing despite its size. Deku reacted instinctively, his body moving on pure reflex as he dodged to the side. The creature's claws sliced through the air where Deku had been moments before, the sound of tearing flesh echoing in the stillness. His heart raced as he pivoted, summoning the energy of the awakened Red Warrior to fuel his next move. In the span of seconds, the clearing transformed into a battlefield where light and darkness clashed in a symphony of raw power. Deku shifted into a defensive stance, his muscles coiled with the precision of a trained warrior. The creature circled him again, its eyes glowing with an almost hypnotic intensity. Then, with a guttural roar, it attacked once more. This time, Deku was ready. Drawing on the strength of his Yui training and the ancient energy coursing through him, he launched a series of rapid strikes. His fists, glowing with red and green hues reminiscent of both his past determination and his newly inherited spirit, met the creature's dark energy head-on. Each blow was a test of his resolve, every impact a declaration that he would not yield to the creeping corruption that threatened the jungle's soul. The creature absorbed some of the impacts, its body shifting and contorting as if it were made of smoke and shadows. Yet with each strike, cracks of brilliant light burst forth along its surface, exposing the vulnerability hidden beneath its ominous exterior. Deku's movements were a graceful blend of martial arts and instinctual prowess. He parried, dodged, and countered with a determination that belied his inexperience in such dark confrontations. During a particularly fierce exchange, the creature feinted to the left and then struck from above. Deku, anticipating the move through a mixture of training and intuition, ducked low and rolled forward, narrowly evading the lethal blow. As he came to a halt, his eyes locked with the creature's, and in that moment, he saw not just a mindless beast but an intelligence driven by a force of pure malice, a being that had once perhaps been a guardian of this land, now twisted by an insatiable hunger for chaos. A surge of adrenaline and inner fire propelled Deku forward. "I won't let you destroy what I've fought so hard to protect!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the clearing as he launched into a flurry of attacks. His fists, now a blur of motion, struck with precision, each hit imbued with the spirit of every hero who had come before him. The creature staggered, its dark form flickering as if destabilized by the concentrated force of Deku's resolve. For what felt like an eternity, the two combatants wove around each other in a deadly dance, the clearing becoming a stage for the collision of two opposing forces. The creature's attacks were relentless, its every movement laced with an unholy determination to snuff out the light. Yet Deku's response was equally fierce, a testament to the strength of his spirit and the training that had brought him this far. Every strike Deku delivered was met with a counter-claw swipe, a burst of dark energy, a twisting motion meant to disorient and overwhelm. The impact of each blow sent tremors through the ground beneath their feet, stirring up the rich earth and scattering leaves like confetti at a macabre celebration. Amid the chaos, Deku's mind raced. He recalled the lessons of the jungle: to remain calm in the face of overwhelming odds, to trust in the rhythm of nature, and to let the ancient spirit guide his every move. In one heart-stopping moment, as the creature reared back to prepare a massive, crushing blow, Deku closed his eyes for an instant and reached deep within himself. He summoned every lesson learned from his trials: the careful balance between strength and empathy, the understanding that true power came from within, and the unwavering belief in the legacy of the Red Warrior. When he opened his eyes again, they burned with a ferocity that matched the creature's own malevolent glow. With a cry that reverberated like a battle hymn, Deku launched himself at the creature with renewed vigor. He wove between its savage strikes, his movements a fluid mix of calculated martial artistry and instinctive reaction. Every blow he delivered was precise, designed not only to harm but to force the creature into submission, to break the cycle of corruption that had seized it. As their fight raged on, the boundaries between Deku's body and the ancient energy within him blurred. In those moments, he was no longer just a young hero from UA. He was the embodiment of the Red Warrior, a living testament to the power of hope in the face of encroaching darkness. The battle reached a crescendo as the creature, now visibly weakened, attempted one final, desperate maneuver. With a surge of unbridled fury, it gathered dark energy around its form, creating a swirling vortex of shadow that threatened to consume everything in its path. The air grew heavy, charged with a malignant energy that seemed to choke the very life out of the clearing. Deku could feel the pressure mounting, the weight of every doubt and every fear threatening to overwhelm him. For a split second, the darkness seemed poised to snuff out the fragile flame of hope that burned within him. But then, amidst the encroaching despair, he heard it, the echo of voices, the legacy of heroes past, urging him to stand firm and not falter. The ancient spirit within him roared to life, merging with his own determination to form a radiant beacon of light. Drawing upon this wellspring of inner strength, Deku stepped forward into the vortex. The dark energy recoiled as his body became a conduit for the light of the Red Warrior. In a dazzling display of raw power, he unleashed a concentrated burst of energy, a swirling blend of red and green that surged forward like a tidal wave of hope. The impact was cataclysmic. The vortex shattered like glass, and the creature was thrown backward by the sheer force of Deku's attack. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The clearing was filled with a radiant glow as the dark energy dissipated, leaving behind only the trembling remnants of what had once been a formidable adversary. Deku, gasping for breath and bruised by the intensity of the battle, stood amidst the stillness, a lone warrior in a silent, scarred battlefield. As the dust settled, the jungle slowly reawakened from its tense, ominous lull. Birds began to chirp tentatively once more, and the dappled sunlight filtered through the canopy, restoring color to the clearing. Deku, still catching his breath, surveyed the scene with cautious relief. The creature, now nothing more than a wounded, fading shadow on the edge of the clearing, slumped against a moss-covered boulder. Its eyes, once blazing with malevolence, now held a flicker of recognition and defeat. In that moment, Deku understood that this confrontation had not only been a battle of physical might but also a test of the spirit, the ability to reach out even to an enemy consumed by darkness. The guardians who had accompanied him arrived quietly at the periphery of the clearing, their expressions a mixture of pride and solemn respect. Suri stepped forward first, her voice soft and measured. "You have done well, Deku. Today, you have faced a darkness that threatened to corrupt all that is sacred in this jungle, and you have prevailed." Ral's deep, resonant tone added, "You fought not out of blind anger, but with understanding. You recognized that the enemy before you was, in its own way, a victim of corruption. In sparing it further suffering, you honored the balance of nature." Deku's gaze shifted to the fallen creature. Though defeated, it still exuded a lingering aura of sorrow and regret, a reminder that even those lost to darkness were once part of the natural order. I don't want to destroy life," Deku admitted quietly, the weight of his responsibility etched on his face. "Even in our enemies, I see the potential for redemption. The jungle taught me that true strength lies in protecting the balance, not in mindless annihilation." There was a moment of silence as his words hung in the air. The guardians exchanged knowing glances, understanding that Deku's compassionate resolve was as significant a victory as the physical triumph he had achieved. Even the jungle, it seemed, sighed in collective relief as the malignant energy receded, replaced by a renewed sense of harmony. Later that day, as the jungle settled back into its natural rhythm, Deku found a quiet spot near a gently flowing stream to reflect on the confrontation. The scars from the battle, both visible and hidden, served as stark reminders of the cost of protecting what was precious. Sitting on a large, smooth rock, he closed his eyes and listened to the murmuring of the water, a soothing cadence that seemed to whisper lessons of renewal and hope. Images of the fight replayed in his mind, the monstrous form of the creature, the desperate flurry of strikes, the moment when his own inner light clashed with the encroaching darkness. With each recollection, he felt the weight of his journey, the burden of a legacy he had only just begun to comprehend. Yet amid the pain and the loss, there was a quiet certainty, a realization that every scar, every bruise, was a step toward becoming the hero the jungle so desperately needed. In that reflective solitude, Deku made a silent vow. He would continue to grow in strength and wisdom, not merely to defeat foes but to protect the delicate balance of life itself. His confrontation with darkness was only the beginning, a prelude to the greater challenges that awaited him in this strange, vibrant realm where ancient power and modern heroism converged. As dusk began to settle, casting long shadows over the jungle floor, Deku rejoined his mentors and newfound allies. Around a modest fire, under the watchful eyes of towering trees and the soft glow of fireflies, they shared quiet words of praise and reflection. Terran, whose gentle wisdom had guided him earlier, mused softly. "Today, you have proven that the strength of a true warrior is measured not solely in the power of his strikes but in the courage to see beyond the enemy's fury, to see the potential for redemption, even in the darkest of souls." Deku listened intently, absorbing every word. The night was cool, and as the fire crackled, he allowed the warmth of its light to seep into him, a comforting contrast to the earlier chill of confrontation. "I still have much to learn," he admitted, his voice a mixture of resolve and humility. "But I promise to use this strength wisely to protect, to heal, and to honor the legacy of the Red Warrior." The guardians nodded in silent agreement, their faces etched with the wisdom of countless trials. They knew that Deku's journey was far from over, that the jungle still held many secrets and dangers yet to be revealed. But in his eyes burned a determination that transcended fear, a determination to rise above the darkness and become a beacon of hope for both this wild realm and the world he had once known. In the days that followed the confrontation, the jungle seemed to breathe easier. The malignant presence that had threatened its sacred balance had been repelled for now. Yet the encounter had left an indelible mark on Deku. Each step he took, each challenge he faced, now carried the memory of that fateful day. The fight had not been won solely by physical might. It had been won by the unyielding spirit within him, a spirit that could illuminate even the darkest corners of the heart. Deku continued his journey through the jungle with his mentors by his side, each day unveiling new mysteries and offering fresh lessons. The first confrontation had forged a deeper bond between him and the ancient energies that flowed through this wild domain. It was as if the jungle itself recognized him as one of its own, a guardian destined to stand against the forces of corruption and despair. And so, as the first light of dawn broke through the treetops one crisp morning, painting the world in hues of gold and green, Deku pressed onward. The battle with the dark creature had been a defining moment, a trial that had tested his resolve, honed his skills, and affirmed his commitment to the legacy of the Red Warrior. In the gentle rustle of leaves and the whisper of the wind, he could hear the promise of new challenges and the hope of redemption. In the quiet moments before the day's bustle resumed, Deku found himself gazing into a clear pool of water, its surface reflecting not only the canopy above but also the determined glint in his own eyes. He saw in that reflection the scars of battle and the light of unyielding purpose, a mosaic of triumph and vulnerability that defined him as much as the ancient spirit that now flowed through his veins. He recalled the voice of his mentor Kalen, echoing in his mind. "A hero's strength is not in his power alone, but in his capacity to learn, to adapt, and to extend compassion even in the midst of conflict." With every fiber of his being, Deku vowed to live by those words, to use his newfound strength not as a tool of vengeance, but as a shield for those who could not defend themselves, and as a beacon of hope in a world too often shrouded in darkness. As twilight descended over the jungle, turning the sky a deep indigo studded with stars, Deku sat quietly by the fire with his mentors and allies. The conversation drifted to the events of the day, the lessons learned, and the challenges yet to come. There was a collective understanding among them that the confrontation was not an isolated incident, but a harbinger of conflicts that would test the limits of their courage and conviction. Suri's gentle voice broke the reflective silence. "You fought with honor today, Deku. But remember, every enemy you face is part of a larger tapestry, a tapestry woven by fate, sacrifice, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Your journey is only beginning, and with each battle, you not only defend this jungle but also help to heal the wounds of a world in turmoil." Deku listened, feeling the weight of her words settle around him like a mantle. He understood that the path ahead would be fraught with trials and heartbreaks, but also with moments of profound beauty and transformation. The first confrontation had revealed the darkness lurking at the edges of his new realm, but it had also illuminated the strength that lay within him, the power to overcome, to protect, and ultimately, to bring balance to a fractured world. In that quiet, starlit night, as the fire's embers flickered and the jungle sang its nocturnal lullaby, Deku made a solemn vow. He would continue to fight not only with his fists but with his heart, letting compassion and understanding guide him even in the heat of battle. Every scar, every bruise, would serve as a reminder of the journey he had embarked upon, a journey that would shape him into the hero he was destined to become. The legacy of the Red Warrior was no longer a distant echo of ancient times. It had become a living, breathing force within him, a beacon of hope in a realm where shadows could all too easily overwhelm the light. And as the fire crackled softly and the jungle whispered its ancient secrets into the night, Deku knew that he was ready for whatever lay ahead. In the aftermath of the first confrontation, the jungle had shifted once more. The malignant energy had receded, replaced by a renewed vibrancy that seemed to affirm that balance had been restored, if only temporarily. Yet Deku understood that darkness was never truly vanquished. It would rise again, and when it did, he and his allies would have to stand ready. As the night deepened and the fire's glow danced across the faces of those gathered, Deku closed his eyes and listened to the heartbeat of the jungle, a steady, persistent rhythm that echoed his own. In that moment, he felt a profound connection to the land, to the ancient power that flowed through it, and to the legacy he now carried. It was a bond forged in battle, tempered by compassion, and destined to endure through the ages. And so, with the first confrontation behind him and the promise of a new dawn ahead, Deku embraced his destiny fully. The journey had only just begun, and the trials of the jungle would continue to shape him into a guardian of hope, a hero who would stand against the encroaching darkness and protect the fragile balance of life. Deku's heart still pounded with the adrenaline of recent battles, but now a deeper, more insidious tension gripped him, a tension born not from the dangers of the jungle, but from memories of a life he thought he had left behind. In the quiet moments after the confrontation with darkness, as the first hints of dusk bled into the sky, the lush canopy above began to whisper of secrets long buried. These were the shadows of the past, fragments of a former self and memories of trials fought in a world far removed from the wild, untamed heartbeat of the jungle. The air was cooler now, heavy with the perfume of night-blooming flowers and the distant murmur of a river. As Deku walked along a narrow, winding trail, his thoughts began to drift, unbidden images and recollections surfacing like specters in the twilight. The jungle, once a realm of raw vitality and promise, now transformed into a theater for the echoes of his past. Every rustle of leaves and every shifting shadow seemed to murmur words he'd long suppressed. He remembered UA High School with a clarity that almost took his breath away, the relentless training, the unwavering ideals of heroism, and the constant pressure to live up to a legacy of valor and sacrifice. Each step he took in the present was accompanied by a flash of faces from that past, mentors who had nurtured his dreams, comrades whose laughter and tears had filled long, arduous days, and the ever-looming presence of heroes whose legacies he had aspired to uphold. The jungle, in its ancient wisdom, was a mirror reflecting both his newfound strength and the lingering doubts that had haunted him since childhood. Deku's mind wandered back to the moment he first accepted the call of the Red Warrior. That transformative ritual, under the watchful guidance of Kalen and Ayana, had unlocked a dormant power within him, made power that now pulsed like a second heartbeat. Yet with that power came the burden of legacy, a reminder that every hero was shaped as much by their failures as by their triumphs. And as he traversed the winding paths beneath the towering trees, the shadows of his past reached out to him, demanding acknowledgement. It was during a brief pause beside a slow-moving stream that Deku first felt the pull of memory intensify. The water, clear and cool, mirrored not just the sky above but the flickering images of a life once lived. In the gentle flow of the current, he could almost see the bustling corridors of UA classrooms filled with hopeful chatter, the sharp commands of instructors, and the resilient determination etched on the faces of his fellow students. A familiar voice, soft yet insistent, echoed in his mind. "Never forget who you are, Deku." It was the voice of All Might, the symbol of peace, whose teachings had shaped Deku's very being. In that moment, the jungle around him faded into a sepia-toned memory, and for a heartbeat, he was transported back to the days of training, when every challenge was met with a fervent desire to prove himself worthy of the hero he longed to become. Images cascaded before his eyes, the weight of a hero's costume, the pain of physical and emotional scars earned in battle, and the camaraderie that made even the darkest days bearable. But along with those cherished memories came a darker undercurrent, the weight of expectations, the sting of past failures, and the lingering question of whether his own light could ever truly overcome the shadows of doubt. Deku's eyes misted over as the memory of a failed rescue operation resurfaced, one where he had been too slow, too uncertain. The failure had left an indelible mark on his soul, a reminder that heroism was not just about strength, but about resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Now, as he sat by the stream, he allowed himself to feel that sorrow, recognizing it as an essential part of his journey. For in the depths of that pain lay the seeds of growth, the very lessons that would forge him into a hero capable of shouldering not just power, but responsibility. Determined not to be overwhelmed by nostalgia, Deku rose from the stream's edge and resumed his journey, his steps measured and deliberate. With every stride, he began to sift through the tangled threads of memory, seeking not only to recall but to understand the events that had brought him to this moment. The path ahead led him to a clearing where the jungle opened up to reveal ancient stone ruins. Moss and vines had claimed these relics of a bygone era, but their presence was a testament to the passage of time, a silent chronicle of civilizations that had risen and fallen. As Deku approached the crumbling archway, he felt a magnetic pull, as if the stones themselves were imbued with the wisdom of those who had come before. Here, amid the ruins, the past and present converged. He could see reflections of UA in the weathered carvings, a symbol of heroism etched into stone alongside symbols of nature, eternity, and rebirth. It was a reminder that the ideals of his former life were not lost but had evolved, merging with the ancient forces of the jungle to form something new and powerful. In this quiet sanctuary, Deku began to piece together his identity. He recalled the long hours of training, the moments of self-doubt, and the hard-won victories that had defined his early years. But he also remembered the pain of loss, the friends he had seen fall, the mentors whose guidance had been silenced too soon, and understood that those shadows were not enemies to be vanquished, but lessons to be embraced. The ruins became a canvas upon which his memories were painted, each carving a symbol of hope, sacrifice, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. As he ran his fingers over the rough surface of an ancient inscription, he could almost hear the echoes of voices long past. They spoke of perseverance, of the unbreakable spirit of those who had dared to dream even in the face of insurmountable odds. And in their whispered counsel, Deku found a renewed sense of purpose. Night began to fall as Deku lingered among the ruins, the sky above a tapestry of stars that shimmered like scattered dreams. With the darkness came a deeper introspection, a confrontation with the legacy he carried on his shoulders. In the jungle's quiet embrace, the ghosts of his past were not malevolent. They were messengers, each one urging him to learn from the successes and failures of those who had walked the path before him. The legacy of UA, of All Might and every hero who had come before, was both a blessing and a burden. Deku recalled All Might's words, imbued with strength and hope, and yet he also remembered the quiet moments of solitude when the weight of expectation had nearly crushed him. He thought of his friends at UA, those who had cheered him on, and those whose eyes had seen his doubts, and realized that his journey was not just about wielding power but about honoring the sacrifices that had paved the way. A chill wind stirred through the ruins as if to emphasize the passage of time. Deku wrapped his arms around himself, not only to ward off the cold but to comfort his aching heart. In that moment, he understood that shadows were not solely remnants of failure or regret. They were also a part of his strength. They were the lessons that had taught him humility, the reminders of mortality that made every victory all the more precious. As he sat in silence, the gentle hum of the jungle seemed to murmur in sympathy, its ancient rhythm assuring him that every hero, no matter how mighty, was forged in the crucible of hardship. The legacy he bore was not a chain that bound him, but a mantle that he could choose to embrace with grace and determination. Later that night, as Deku made camp beneath the towering boughs of a venerable oak, sleep came in fitful, haunted fragments. In his dreams, he wandered once again through the familiar halls of UA. The corridors were bathed in a soft, surreal light, and familiar voices echoed in the distance, voices of encouragement, of caution, and of lingering regret. He saw himself as a younger version, full of hope and uncertainty, striving to prove his worth. But then the scenes darkened. Faces of friends blurred with sorrow, and the weight of every misstep and every loss pressed upon him like a relentless tide. In one particularly vivid dream, he found himself in a battlefield of memory, a chaotic melange of victories and failures, each one a stark reminder that the journey of a hero was fraught with peril, not just from external foes, but from the inner demons of guilt and doubt. In these nocturnal visions, the jungle and UA coexisted in a surreal dance. The verdant canopy of the wild intermingled with the sterile corridors of his former life, and the ideals of heroism were both exalted and questioned. All Might's reassuring smile appeared in the distance, but so did the shadowy figures of those who had fallen. It was a tapestry of light and darkness, of inspiration and despair. When morning finally broke, Deku awoke drenched in sweat, his heart racing with the residue of his troubled dreams. He stared at the pale light filtering through the leaves and felt a familiar tug, a reminder that the past, though it could be revisited in dreams, was ever present in the choices he made each day. The jungle had taught him that one must face the shadows to harness the light, and now, with the memories of UA swirling in his mind, he resolved to confront them head-on. With the rising sun casting a golden glow over the ruins, Deku set out to reconcile the disparate fragments of his past. His journey led him to a secluded glade where the air was thick with mist and the silence was profound. Here, in the soft light of dawn, he found a quiet pool of water, a natural mirror reflecting not only the sky but the depths of his own soul. Kneeling by the pool, Deku peered into its still surface. In that reflective calm, he saw not only his current self, the guardian of the jungle and bearer of the Red Warrior's legacy, but also the young, uncertain hero from UA, whose eyes had once shone with raw determination and unspoken dreams. The reflection was a collage of moments, both triumphant and tragic, a living testament to the trials he had endured and the battles he had yet to fight. For long minutes, he sat in silence, letting the images wash over him. He acknowledged the mistakes that had haunted him, the times he had faltered, the lives he had failed to protect, and he felt the sting of regret like a distant echo. But in that same moment, he also recognized the strength that those experiences had forged. Every scar was a reminder that heroism was not defined by perfection, but by the courage to rise again after every fall. Your past is not your prison. A quiet inner voice murmured, perhaps the gentle echo of All Might's teachings, or the ancient wisdom of the jungle itself. It is the soil in which your future grows. These words, half remembered from his youth and half forged by the crucible of the present, sparked a slow, steady warmth within him. Deku allowed himself to forgive the younger version of himself, recognizing that every mistake had been a step on the long, arduous path toward becoming who he was today. In that moment of introspection, the shadows of the past began to recede, not disappearing entirely, but merging with the light to form a more complete, resilient whole. As Deku rose from the pool, the jungle around him seemed to awaken with a renewed vibrancy. The birds sang softly, and even the rustling leaves appeared to whisper encouragement. He sensed that the lessons of the past were not meant to be burdens but to serve as guiding stars on his journey forward. With this realization burning in his heart, he began to move deeper into the glade, where the remnants of ancient altars and stone statues hinted at ceremonies long forgotten. In one such clearing, he discovered a crumbling memorial dedicated to heroes of old, a tribute to those who had once walked a path similar to his. The statues, though weathered by time, exuded a silent dignity. Deku knelt before them, feeling both the weight and the wonder of history. He spoke softly, as if addressing old friends. I honor your sacrifice. I carry your memories with me, and I vow to learn from your triumphs and your failures. In that solemn moment, he felt a delicate presence that brushed against the edges of his consciousness. It was as though the spirits of those ancient heroes had been waiting for him, ready to impart their wisdom. The sensation was both eerie and comforting, a tangible reminder that the past was never truly lost. The legacy of heroism, in all its pain and glory, lived on in every beating heart that dared to dream of a better world. For hours, Deku remained in that hallowed space, absorbed in silent communion with the ghosts of the past. The mingling of memory and spirit created an atmosphere thick with possibility. He recalled the times he had doubted himself, the moments when fear had nearly paralyzed him, and he felt a surge of determination. The path to redemption was never easy, he knew, but it was paved with the recognition of one's own frailties and the courage to transcend them. He resolved that he would no longer be haunted by regret. Instead, he would channel those shadows into a wellspring of strength. The lessons of his past, every failure, every hardship would become the foundation upon which he built a future of hope and resilience. In that transformative act of acceptance, the dichotomy between light and shadow blurred, merging into a singular, radiant force. Deku rose with a newfound clarity. The memories that once tormented him were now transformed into stepping stones, a pathway toward a destiny defined by compassion, perseverance, and the unyielding belief that even the darkest past could give rise to a brilliant future. The jungle, in its infinite wisdom, had shown him that every scar told a story, and every story was a lesson in becoming stronger. As dusk settled over the glade, the sky ablaze with hues of purple and gold, Deku began his journey back to camp with a heavy yet hopeful heart. The shadows of his past still lingered, but now they were no longer specters of despair. They were integral parts of his identity, woven into the very fabric of his soul. He had reconciled with the ghost of his former self, accepting that the trials of UA and the lessons learned in that hallowed institution were as much a part of him as the ancient power he now wielded. Along the way, he encountered familiar faces among his mentors, Suri, Raul, and Terran, each of whom sensed the change in him. Their eyes, reflecting both pride and quiet understanding, spoke volumes. They knew that to become a true guardian of both the jungle and the legacy of heroism, one must embrace every facet of one's history, no matter how painful. Their silent support bolstered Deku's resolve, reaffirming that he was not alone in his struggle against the darkness within and without. That night, as the campfire crackled and the gentle hum of the jungle lulled his comrades into reflective conversation, Deku sat apart, gazing into the dancing flames. The firelight revealed the contours of his face etched with the lines of past sorrow and present determination, and in that flickering glow, he saw the many layers of his identity: the determined student from UA, the passionate fighter tempered by loss, and the emerging guardian of the ancient wilds. He whispered to himself, "I am not defined by my failures. I am defined by my ability to learn, to adapt, and to rise from the ashes of my past." With each word, he felt the shadows recede further, replaced by a luminous certainty that his past was a source of strength rather than a chain that bound him. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world is hushed and the boundary between dreams and reality blurs, Deku lay awake, contemplating the long road ahead. The memories of UA, the voices of old mentors, and the silent lessons of ancient heroes mingled in his mind like a vast tapestry, a story that was still being written, one fraught with challenges yet filled with the promise of redemption. He recalled the pain of failing to save a comrade, the weight of responsibility that had once nearly broken him, and the fierce determination that had always stirred within him at the thought of rising again. In that sacred solitude, Deku vowed to honor every fragment of his past not as a burden, but as the foundation of a future built on resilience, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to protect both the wild heart of the jungle and the legacy of heroes that span generations. With the first light of dawn peeking over the horizon, Deku felt a profound shift within him. The shadows of the past had not vanished. They had been integrated into his very essence, transforming him into a more complete and formidable hero. The journey was far from over. There were still enemies to face, challenges to overcome, and a destiny to fulfill that reached beyond the boundaries of two intertwined worlds. As he finally drifted into a deep, restorative sleep, his dreams were no longer haunted by regret but were suffused with hope, a hope as vibrant and enduring as the ancient spirit of the Red Warrior that now pulsed in his veins. In that moment of peaceful surrender, Deku knew that every step he had taken, every scar he bore, and every memory he cherished would serve as a beacon to light the way through the darkness that lay ahead. When morning came, it found Deku already awake, standing at the edge of the camp as the jungle stirred with life. The memories of the past, once sharp and painful, had softened into a quiet strength, a strength that he carried into the new day like an inner flame. The journey through the shadows had been long and arduous, but it had prepared him for the challenges to come. Looking out over the wild expanse, Deku felt a deep connection to the legacy of those who had come before him. Their voices, though distant in time, echoed in his heart, urging him to forge ahead with honor and determination. The past was not a chain that held him back. It was the very soil from which his future would grow, nurtured by the lessons of both triumph and tragedy. And so, as the sun climbed higher and the jungle erupted in a symphony of life and color, Deku took his first step forward into the unknown. With each stride, he carried the shadows of the past with him, not as a weight, but as a part of who he was, a reminder that even in darkness, there is light. His journey was far from over, and the challenges ahead were as formidable as ever. But he knew that within him burned the indomitable spirit of a hero reborn, a hero destined to bridge the gap between worlds and to let hope shine through even the deepest of shadows. In the interplay of memory and destiny, of past wounds and future promise, Deku had discovered a truth as ancient as the jungle itself, that every shadow, no matter how dark, can only exist where there is light. And as he ventured onward, the light of his own resolve illuminated the path before him, a path that wove together the echoes of yesterday with the bright, uncharted possibilities of tomorrow. The journey of the Red Warrior had entered a new phase, a phase defined not by the absence of fear or regret, but by the power to rise above them. The shadows of the past had been confronted, understood, and transformed into a source of strength, fueling his determination to protect the balance of life, honor the legacy of those who had fallen, and inspire hope in a world teetering on the edge of chaos. And so, with the dawn breaking over the jungle, casting golden light on every leaf and stone, Deku stepped boldly into his future, each step a tribute to the heroes of old, each heartbeat a promise that even in the deepest shadows, the light of hope would forever prevail.